that women's health historically is not automatically thought of. That unfortunately, because of that, a lot of the tools that even as we try to build them today can be lackluster because of the fact that like women's health hasn't been a priority, both in funding and research and studies like across the board. It hasn't been a priority. And so that makes it all the harder to build things like this. And I appreciate that Emma has been on the forefront of like, no, this is important and we're going to build it. And the way to make it better is to build it now and keep iteration. I agree wholeheartedly that way that I think about my family's health and my health, it's fundamentally different from how I would say a lot of like my male counterparts think about their health. I think one of the other things that you really hit on that I appreciate is that mental load. I'm constantly in the mindset of like dentist appointment, doctor's appointment, peds, and not for me. Like I'm oftentimes, unfortunately,
And we were doing it all for everyone else.
right, exactly. Unfortunately, like often not thinking about myself, but thinking about my children and the dog and everybody else, and less so myself. As we've worked together, then we have built Vanna, the virtual allergy navigation assistant. And in building that platform with you guys, one of the really big things is like, okay, we've got two different things happening in two different bodies. How do we support both sides of the journey? How do we support the lactating parent and what they're navigating and what they're going through, and the symptoms and helping the infant feel better and be like being empathetic to that situation, because in a vast majority of spaces there's very little empathy, there's a whole lot of dismissal, and unfortunately that's not uncommon in like the lactation space, maternal health space, women's health space. As you think about next steps, how you guys think about continuing to expand and improve and like meet women where they are?
Yeah, I love that question too. So, I mean, just going back to something you said earlier, like the nuances of a person's health, let alone woman, it's a complicated scenario and use case. And so we really believe that if we're building for the most complicated, then it will work for anyone else. And so while we are health and we're starting here, it's because we know like if you start here, we will get things farther along for everyone else. Um, but like our opportunities to also right. And so whether that is through like closing gaps in research, that's something that I'm really passionate about within the company, is that we have this opportunity to, you know, have some subjective data on top of validated assessments. Like Vanna has a validated assessment that you guys deliver, supports both the lactating parent, the biology of the child. And so to like pair that together though with that lived experience of what it's like going through that process is really powerful. And we miss a lot of that information. We only research things when it's kind of at like a high level of urgency, and then you're looking at it from a biometric perspective, which is really important, but you're missing just like, you know, there's a person behind what they're going through, and there's that lived experience does change health outcomes, and it changes, you know, agency around change and motivation